Hello, and welcome back to another art video. And yeah, this one is primarily about a OC that I have called Negative Tuo, a part of a bunch of different ideas. I'm not sure where I would put this character, but I thought I would start trying to work out my characters on paper, get like a consistent way to draw them, because in the past I've had characters that I really liked and wanted to like animate with and redraw, and they don't have any like consistent breakdowns or consistent ways to draw them, so I find myself struggling to get them to look remotely consistent. And uh, if your thought after hearing that is the question of this video, or the hypothesis of this video, um, am I able to create the character the way that I want it? The answer is no. Like, I will just let you know right now, and don't forget to like, comment, and devise. I will, but ongoing, uh, it just did not come out the way that I expected. Right here, what I'm doing is drawing like a kind of like a mannequin as a placeholder in my mind, but that placeholder was useless because um, as we were using the reference, which is off screen because it's on the tablet, and I just didn't put it in the video, and I don't think that I will. But the reference is of the character making, well, two problems. I was in a space where I could just like, where I had no distractions. Literally, there was like no TV, no video game, like no computer. All I had was the phone, and the phone was like the most limited uh, thing that I could use. So it was like literally like no distractions, like just a little bit of distraction, like people, I guess, a little bit, but I had no distractions, and I was just like grinding stuff out, just like cooking, and it was wild because it wasn't like the best stuff, but it was things that had character, in my opinion. It was things that gave me a outlet to do things that I could not really deal with at that time. And it was very interesting because, a bunch of characters were created, a bunch of things were done that I wouldn't have been able to do any other way, I think, because since then, yeah, I am mostly much better than some of that stuff from back then, but the rest of it, I think that has like a lot of charm and character that I wish I could capture. But the main problem here is that in both references, one reference, the character Negative Tuo is running, and then the other problem with the art is Negative Tuo is standing still wearing a giant hoodie. Now this hoodie is obscuring their body, so it creates this like thing where I have to guess. And there's a lot of characters that I have that I like that wear like these either really long shirts or really long coats, and guessing what their body is like underneath those coats really messes it up, because what ends up happening is that the proportions start to become all lanky and weird. And maybe I should draw the character first and then draw the coat on top of it, which is not a bad idea. But then also the proportions of the clothing becomes obscure, or like not obscure, but how do I say this? Obtuse due to the character being drawn. I will draw like the coat or something like either really big and like stupid looking, or really small. But it's something that I need to practice at and work at. I will be retackling this character again, as long as my other characters like Rain and etc. Um, I'm not really sure if there's any projects that I want to use them on, but the main thing here is working on problem solving of my own original characters and making them into a way that I could redraw them again, animate with them, and possibly tell stories with them. I am not done with like characters like Blue Ant, because Blue Ant also suffers from a similar issue where Blue Ant, just even though he's very simple, I draw him differently every single time, and each time either he looks worse or he looks better, and I need to standardize the way that he looks for the way that I want to use them. But I also can't focus too much on that, because focusing too much on that will inevitably lead to a situation where we are right now, where I do not do any where I haven't done any like new blue ant drawings as of the recording of this video. I've not done any new blue ant drawings. I haven't really worked too much on the blue ant idea too much. I do still have the script for the first set of the story. I do still have the idea for what I want to do for the first of the story. In fact, the other day I did have an idea for an animation for blue ant, and I was timing it out using like a bouncing ball, and I just stopped because it was like becoming a too big of a concept, too big of an idea. And that's one of the things that I have, is that one of the biggest problems that I feel like, in my opinion, that artists, or I will speak for myself, that I have, is that the existence of all this media that we can witness that has amazing stories, and like really long stories and all of that stuff, and really cool things going on. And obviously, it may have been worked on by multiple people, or may have been worked on by one person, or it's usually just a team of people when it's something that's consumed by the masses. And this causes an issue, because you see that and think to yourself, well, I can do all of that on my own. It's not that you can't, but you have to pace yourself and have realistic goals for yourself, and maybe set realistic deadlines. Unfortunately, if you don't do that, what ends up happening is that you expand your scope so wide and so vast that you end up in a void of just this massive idea that you can't possibly do in the time that you have. Because theoretically, the animation that I was setting up to do for that, it right now, if I would have took it step by step, the way that I am learning to go with certain things, right now we'd be on the maybe the tie down phase of it, and it could be done in a couple of days theoretically, right? But starting it and thinking like, oh man, I'm not gonna finish this today, and then stopping working on it, was a big mistake, and that led to the loss of the idea, essentially. But it was a simple animation. It was just gonna be blue ant with like some camera motion and some turns, and he was just gonna be punching, and then what he hit you wouldn't see, because the camera would like fade out into like a giant bright light, like he just fade away, and that would be the animation. And it sounds simple inside of my head. It's very easy to see, but in reality it's harder to do. So when it didn't look right, I just kind of walked away from it and abandoned it. But in reality, if I was still just working on it day by day, moment by moment, bit by bit, it could be done over time. Um, so that's a bit disheartening, but we can always go back to that. Right now, the main focus of everything that we need to get done is primarily capsule stuff and the dudes. I think those two things are very important to get into practice. And also breaking down my characters and being able to redraw them. I was thinking of, in the future, do some capsules, design sheets, where I do certain monsters, like doing attacks, like come up with a attack list and draw some of them doing those attacks. So that could be pretty fun. We still are working on the field guide. The field guide is mostly, I don't even want to say it's like coming along. What I will say about the field guide is that all the images are in the book. Now, the descriptions are not all in the book, and the animations are not all made. So we have, as of the recording of this video, we have one animation made, and I'm hoping to have, I don't know, at least like two a week, like two done a week to post. And yeah, it's not very complicated either. It's very like simple stuff, but it is it is a daunting task because it's a big idea, and often the problem is that I don't really understand how big a scope something could be until I start it or start thinking about it, and that creates this level of paralysis that is not fun and not cool. But if I can direct your attention away from all of my projects that I need to work on and back to the project at hand, I really am not satisfied with how this turned out. I really wish that it was more like definitive things going on here. Like, I don't like the way the leg in the back is, and I don't like the way that when they're standing facing forward, how the head is kind of tilted upward, and it's kind of like making their body look funny. And I wish that would have lowered the shoulders so that way the coat would be, or the hoodie would be more like a downward shape, but that's fine. And then I just colored over it with like color pencils, like the technique that we used to do the blue ant character, the yellow guy, or yellow slug. It is the method that I've just been using the color from now on, honestly, because I did like doing the line work and whatnot, but I feel like this way the color is just so much better, and it honestly saves me time having to ink the thing and then erase it. So this is a much better like result for me, and I honestly don't know what colors this character has because the reference is just like on a purple background with like yellow as like the light, and I think that that is a that's not a bad thing, but it's like kind of useless as far as like colors go because like it's uncolored. So like I'd have to just color the whole page purple and then color the yellow parts that I want the light to be on, which I'm like, yeah, that's just not what I wanted to do. So I just colored it in a color that I guessed, and obviously, using blue to do such a thing, like I don't even know what color the hair is, and it's because this character has been drawn like probably like once, and there's like both drawings are on the page, and I have not ever like revisited it. There's like a bunch of these characters that need some work, like Matin characters need a bunch of work. Beyond the Mist, the main character, I really need to break him down and really figure him out, and as well as Rain, because those characters are really hard to draw. The main character is probably the hardest one to draw because his original drawing was a sketch accident, and it looks so cool that is like hard to recapture that same level of energy and just raw ability. Like, it's just so good. I just love it so much, and I really wish that I was able to tap into that more often. Like a lot of these ideas, a lot of these stories are a bit tough, and pretty hard. Like, for instance, like Martin would be is a story about like losing people that you care about and regretting the way that sometimes you may treat them. That is a crazy story, but that story is creeped itself out so far that it is undo like, in my opinion, is almost undoable because it it is expanded so far out from just that general story due to there's like these things that I draw, like these dandelions, like they're like giant dandelions, and if you could imagine, every spore of a dandelion is like another dimension, then you've got a problem because you end up in this land where there's nothing but these dandelions, and there's like hundreds of thousands of them, and they're all releasing spores. So those are all different universes, and you're looking for who you're looking for, your loved ones, through these different ones, and it's like, well, will you ever find them? It's very much like '90s Spider-Man cartoon where they took him through the multiverse, and he was looking for Mary Jane, and he ended up in another reality, and you're like, oh man, like Mary Jane's back, and you think that like they're gonna be together, and reality is no, it's a different universe. So like, and then she gets snatched again anyway. So it's just like a whole thing, you know what I mean? Like, it's a whole thing is not consistent in any way, and it is good for if you are a seasoned writer and you understand how to, create narratives. It's good for you. If you are not a seasoned writer and you are trying to create your first story, your first comic, and all of that stuff, it is a bit more like it's a hard task. It's a hard task. There's no way around it. It is very difficult to wrangle in all of that stuff because you're thinking about like you're thinking 40 steps ahead and you haven't even really fleshed out the story right in front of you. So this creates this like infinite vacuum where it's like, well, am I like, do I worry about telling the story, or I worry about how like complex the story is going to be? And it's like you could do both, but most of the time you're not going to do both. You're not going to do neither because it's going to be like, well, this is so complex. How do I draw this? Like how do I draw all of these things? And it's like, yeah, one page at a time, but you become a little bit impatient and it becomes harder and harder to do. But I think that I will be able to do all of them. And if not, there's always the final option, which my final option is combine all of the stories, because my theory is combine everything together, Martin, capsules, everything into one thing, and that can all be done with a story that I have called Wish, and that would make everything into one. Blue Ant, everything would just be one thing. Rochelle, like it would all just be underneath one existence, one rule, one space. But that would be insane, and that would be the ultimate scope creep. The scope creep is called scope crunch. But let me know what you think about my character, Negative Tuo. Do you think the design is cute? You think the design is cool? You think the design is ugly or stupid? Let me know in the comments below. So don't forget to like, comment, and devise, and i.e. subscribe. So thank you for listening, and I will see you again in the next one. Goodbye.